Hello everyone, Miss Sperber here. I am so excited about this video today because I want to share with you about something that I love so much, which is how we combine words and art. And before we get to that, I want to share with you just a couple of definitions. So our first definition, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is simply to write, which is to form characters, symbols, etc. on a surface with an instrument, such as a pen. This is your regular handwriting. This is stuff that you would do maybe when you're taking notes in school, or if you want to send a letter to someone or write down a grocery list. This is just writing on a piece of paper. This is writing. The next one is calligraphy, which is artistic, stylized, or elegant handwriting. This form of writing takes a little bit longer. This usually has a lot of rules of how things should look. Two styles of that that we see a lot is copperplate or Gothic. These kinds of handwriting we could see in important documents such as like the Declaration of Independence, or older books a lot of times had this, which was like sometimes they would call them illuminated texts. But we also see calligraphy in other languages as well, such as we've got Chinese writing and Arabic. These look a lot different than our standard English alphabet, but they are still super artistic, very stylized, and very elegant at the same time. Our next definition is lettering, but Merriam-Webster, I don't really feel like they have caught up on the times, because this is kind of a newer thing, but they said it's letters used in an inscription, which would be something like the sketchbook, how it says sketch on there. But if you keep searching and find stuff that's a little bit more updated, you will find the definition that I like a little bit better, which is the art of drawing letters. And this is my favorite thing. This is what I want to talk to you about. This is what I am excited about. So here we go. Now we're going to learn some things. So with traditional calligraphy, they used instruments that looked something like this. This is a dip pen. It has a removable nib that you can change to get bigger letters or little letters. And the idea of this is that you would just dip it into the ink and then write on the paper, and that's how you would get your letters on there. The cool thing about these is that, if you can see, there are little tines. There are two little pieces, one right next to each other, and when you push down, they separate. And when they separate, it gives you a thicker line when you're writing with ink on the paper. And if you push lightly, you get a thin line. Other things that were used were brushes, which the same exact thing would happen. A thin line if you push lightly, a thick line if you push hard. And now modern days, we have a lot of different materials. So these, which we're going to focus on today, are brush pens. Lots of different companies make them, but they all have kind of the same idea, that it's kind of like a felt marker tip, but it is very flexible. So same thing, light pressure, thin lines, more pressure, thick lines. So I'm just going to show you very quickly. When we go up, it's thin, and when we go down, it's thick. Okay. This is one of my favorite things to do. These are some pictures from my personal journal, little projects that I do, and I really love it. You get to focus on words that you like and make them pretty at the same time. But the coolest thing about brush lettering is that you can do this with materials that you may have just laying around the house, like these. So I've done this before with either of these kinds of thicker markers. They work pretty well. And it goes with the same concept, where you're gonna push lightly to get thin lines, and then harder to get your thicker lines. You can see it looks very similar. Okay, so key things to know when you're using these is do not push straight up and down. That will ruin your marker. If you push from the side, it'll kind of just bend it a little bit, and then as you keep using it, you're rotating it around and it'll bend it back. So it won't ruin your marker if you go from the side. But, okay, so the biggest rules of brush lettering is that when you are going either up or across the paper, you want to use thin lines. If you are going down the paper, that is when you are going to use thick lines. So, for example, if I just take a capital letter A, I am going up, so I'm not pushing, but then now I'm going to go down, so I push, and then I lift up, kind of rotate my marker since it's bent a little bit, and again, don't push to get that skinny line across. The biggest time that this gets tricky is when we have round letters like O's, U's, R's, S's, all those kinds of things. So for just a capital O, if I start up here, I'm kind of going across so it's thin. As soon as I start going down, I push, and then as I come up and around, I go thin and light again. So again, you can see that there are differences in our thin and thick lines. Okay, and then when you're writing this, you can also write it however you want. You can do your own handwriting, just kind of go a little slower so you can pay attention to how you're pushing, but you can change it up. So if I am going to write the word Crayola, since that is what I'm using, again, you're at an angle, and then I'm going to start down here. Thin, push harder, thick, push, light, push, light, push, light, push, push, light. I'm gonna push and lighten up. Here's my O, L, that one's easy, A. And you can see it gives you kind of a little bit fancier of a print, but you can also take this and use your cursive skills and try writing it that way. So again, we're gonna push and go light, push, push, lighten up. And it's the same concept where down is thick, up and across is thin. And this will take you a little bit longer than if you were just writing, but it is kind of a slow meditation. So that is the basics of brush lettering. Take some time to try it out. Use whatever materials you want, use whatever language you want. Use your own handwriting or practice your cursive. If you want to try a little bit fancier brush lettering, you can search for free brush lettering practice sheets that you can download online and trace over them and go over them. But if you do this, upload a picture, let me see what you can do. And the most important thing is to have fun.